All right, guys, welcome to Making Multifamily Money. So today, as people kind of trickle in, I kind of want to talk about a very popular topic that people reach out to me a lot for, and the topic is creative financing. And why it's such a popular topic in 2023 at the end of 2022 is because of interest rates going up so high. Um, a lot of people are discouraged right now. I think the loan is between 6 to 7% interest right now. And if you're doing, kind of non-recourse debt, you're paying between, 7 to 8% interest. So as a result, it's pretty popular. Hey, Charmaine, thanks for hopping on.
Hey there.
Hey, hey. Um, so I guess today I kind of want to share briefly about, I think, three topics about creative financing, and then kind of open up to the floor, whether you're on Google Meets or on Instagram Live. Um, so, kind of starting over again, creative financing is very popular, given that a lot of people, a lot of sellers want to sell at a certain price, typically their price. It's most likely overpriced. And a lot of buyers, they want down less money. They don't have a track record. They don't have a good credit score. So what kind of marries the two together is creative financing. And the three types of creative financing, which are the most popular, is the first one is seller carry first. So essentially, the property needs to be owned free and clear. So there's no debt on the property. And the seller basically becomes the bank. So that's what's really nice about seller carry first is the seller becomes the bank. So let's just say the seller's name is John. It's now the Bank of John. And what's really nice about the Bank of John is you can negotiate whatever terms you want. So you can negotiate your down payment, you can negotiate the term, you can negotiate your interest rate, you can negotiate if there's a balloon or not, you can negotiate if it's principal and interest payments. You have full control over every aspect of the loan when you do creative financing. So the first option is seller carry first. So basically, the seller becomes the bank. The second option is called subject to or master lease agreement. And what's nice about subject to master lease agreement is typically there's a loan on the property still. So it's not owned free and clear. There's still a mortgage on it. And a lot of the times the seller for subject to is in a distressed situation. So maybe they're about to be foreclosed on. Maybe, they bought an apartment complex, and the value of apartment complexes is based on the net operating income divided by the market cap rate. And if you do not manage the apartment complex appropriately, the net operating income goes down. And when the net operating income goes down, the value goes down. And as a result, if you try to sell the property, not only, let's just say you bought it for $1 million based on the NOI, but after you manage the property, the NOI dropped and now it's worth $800,000. And basically, you might have to come out of pocket when you sell the deal, right? Like if your loan was $750,000, you bought for $1 million, put 25% down, loan $750,000. Let's say you can only sell for $800,000, but after all the fees, which is typically averages 10%, so let's say you sold for $800,000, in your pocket you're going to have around $720,000. You actually have to come to the closing table of money, and you lost money on the deal. So a solution to that is basically subject to, where the seller, their name is still in the loan. All you do is you transfer the deed from their name to your name, and you start making payments to the seller, and the seller will then make payments to their bank. So basically, with this method, your name's not on the loan. You just have an agreement between you and the seller. It's the subject to or master lease agreement. And then from there, that's basically how you take over the property that doesn't have much equity. So I know I went through quite a bit there, but basically seller carry first is when the owner or seller is focused on gain. and the property's owned free and clear. But for the other option, subject to master lease agreement, that means there's pain, but also there's a loan on the property still. So basically, if you understand that concept, that's how you know when to pitch seller carry first versus subject to. And then the last option, the third option, is a seller carry second. So typically, all this does is it reduces your down payment. So let's just say I need to down 25% on a property. So the lender will give me 75%, and the seller will then carry, let's say, 15 or 20% in second lien position. So you have to down between 5 to 10%. So the seller carries second, it basically lowers your down payment a little bit, right? So you have to come out of pocket, 5-10% versus doing the full 25% down. So, I tried doing this in the past. I will say in this market, it's really hard to get lenders to do allow seller carry second, even though it shouldn't really matter because the bank's in the first lien position. So when the bank's in the first lien position, what does that mean? That basically means that if you file for bankruptcy, the first lien position gets their money first, and whatever money's left over, the second lien position gets their money second. And the second lien position is riskier because you may not get your initial investment back, right? So that's kind of the risk that you take in being second lien position. So as a result, you usually will charge a higher interest rate to be in second lien position. So, yeah. So that's kind of like a high level of creative financing. I think where a lot of people get caught up with creative financing is like you can literally set any terms that you want that make sense for you. You just have to get creative about it, right? So sometimes a seller will say, hey, I want 30% down on the property. And I'll say, when I do creative financing, I don't want to give 30% down. I typically want to do, 10 to 20% at most. But what I'll typically do is say, all right, I'll give you 30% down, but let me give you 10% at the close of escrow and then 5% over the next couple of years until I hit 30%, right? You can break down your down payment in that way. So that's why I really, really love about creative financing is you basically can do whatever you want. Like whatever works for you and whatever works for the seller. And if you create win-win situation, that's how you negotiate. So you always need to get creative in how you structure your creative financing. That's why it's called creative financing in the first place. So that's kind of at a high level of creative financing. I've done it for my mobile home park. So for those of you who don't know, I actually bought my mobile home park. So the property was owned free and clear. So I bought it at seller carry first. So basically the seller became the bank. I downed 10%, bought it for $1 million, 5% interest only for 6 years. So I think my monthly payment was around $4,200. It actually deferred interest payments for the first year as I'm fixing up the park, and that's added on to the back end of the loan. So, whenever I unload the property, I have to pay the owner, that deferred interest for a year, which is $50,000 at the end of the loan. But what's nice about that is you're deferring the payment 5 years down the road when a dollar's worth less in 5 years, right? So that's how you kind of get creative with it, and that's why I negotiated. Like the broker didn't negotiate that for me. I was the one who came up with that idea. So that's just kind of an example. And another example is on my 26 unit apartment complex. I actually negotiated seller repair credit. That's actually kind of a fourth method that I did. Another strategy of creative financing is I asked for $60,000 of seller repair credit, which reduced my down payment by $60,000. So that helped me cut my down payment in half from $120,000 to $60,000. So this is just kind of a great way to scale in real estate. And a lot of lenders, when you work with them, they want you to have a track record. Sometimes they want you, if you're personally guaranteeing the loan, you have to have a good credit score. They might ask for loan bank statements, pay stubs, proof of down payment, all these documents. But when you do creative financing, like it's just whatever the seller wants. So it's a lot less documentation. You typically can close a lot faster. Like when I bought my mobile home park creative finance, I closed in 45 days. I had 30 days due diligence and 15 days to close after that. But if you include a lender in the mix, it's typically 60 days at least. Yeah, sometimes may get extended to 90 days. So, yeah, there's a lot of speed that goes with it too. So the seller's in a distressed situation and they want to get rid of the property as fast as possible, then credit financing is basically the most efficient way to go. So that's kind of a high level overview of creative financing. I guess I just want to open it up to the floor now, between Instagram Live and Google Meet. If there's any questions from anybody? Do you have any questions, Charmaine?
Trying to unmute. I do not have questions.
Okay, I think I think if it's okay with you, Charmaine, like, do you want to just talk about your apartment complex? I think it would give you some value as well as the audience as well, if you're open to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's new? What's new of your 35 unit?
So with a 35 unit apartment that we have, it's actually not just the whole 35 units. We have two apartment buildings. We have 26 units and 9 units in one complex. So it's two apartment buildings. We are still actually trying to renovate some of the units that we have. And so we are still very constantly communicating with our property management as far as our goal, keeping us in the loop what's going on as far as keeping it occupied. We wanted to keep it occupied at 90% so we can start refinancing it. Um, and my property management, as you know, Stephen, it's a little old school where still taking on checks and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And and that is fine. So is the tenants. They a lot of them, they don't really have maybe the means, or maybe they're not tech savvy. And so what we have decided, just because it's really hard to keep track of all the finances in an old school way, and also be investing out of state, we came up with actually we've been using the ones that you have suggested, which is Stessa. It's
Yeah.
working just fine, actually. I've actually had an appointment with different CRM. You have to pay monthly payments and all that stuff. It really depends on your situation. If your tenants are very savvy where they can directly pay you via online, that's great. That's actually very awesome. That's how I envision it. But in our situation, they like writing checks. And so the best way, instead of the old school way where we just keep each other in a loop with Excel format, that was the old way. And now we just our property management just update each time in Stessa, which is the CRM and which is free. Um, my husband and I actually checks everything and making sure that everything is aligned based of the finances. And like I said, it's really, really hard to kind of be on track, most especially if you have 35 units.
Yeah.
If you have three, four, five, 6 units, I mean, even 9 units, it's not as hard, but 35 units, you can't even remember the names of your tenants. If my property management tells me, oh, unit 201, I was like, wait a minute, let me go to the CRM. Who's this patient? And
Yeah.
so if I kind of click the patient and maybe check the history or whatnot, or I mean the tenant, and then click the unit, it gives me an idea what's the history or the background, what's going on about the tenant. Sorry, did I say patient earlier?
Yeah.
um, but anyways, as far as that, um, we're still working on the 90% occupancy rate. Um, and we are still looking at the finances. We just boosted our the rate for the tenants for, it's
Nice.
not a whole lot, but
Yeah.
I know they see that we're renovating it, we're making it nicer. And then I remember my property management had told us that, hey, the tenants wanted to speak with you. And then I was like, why? Because you're boosting their monthly. But I spoke to the property management, there's a new management. We're
Hmm.
making it nicer. We're making it a lot better. So they better understand. We actually had a note ahead of time, actually more than a month,
Yeah.
that we are raising the um, the rent for all the tenants across the board. And so, um, and we're pretty much communicating it ahead to the tenants so there's no surprises right there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I probably said too much about that.
No, great points that I kind of want to emphasize. So basically, anytime you take over as a new owner, right, and you're renovating it, there's typically going to be tenant turnover. I experienced it. You're experiencing it. um, and number two is like where we invest. Oklahoma, Mississippi, like the Southeast. Like people are on a fixed income, so like 25, $50 doesn't seem much to us, right? But
Right,
25 bucks times 35 units, it starts to stack up, right? That's a couple
exactly.
$1,000 in net cash flow positive. So a lot of the people, they're not used to it, even though like, I guess I really haven't raised rents like on people there, but typically they do know that like I'm renovating it. It's pretty obvious, right? Like you're in there, contractors in there, they're ripping things out. There's a dumpster in front. People are in and out. It's a small town. People get nosy, right? They might peep in to see what you're doing on the other vacant units. So it is common that that happens, and they try to talk to you. I actually haven't talked to my tenants personally, so that's a little bit unique. They usually funnel me through the property manager, and I strategically do that for one reason is because you don't want you play good cop bad cop, right? So basically, the property manager can say, "Hey, I don't want to raise the rent on you," but Charmaine, she wants to raise the rent on you guys, the owner. So the property manager doesn't seem like the bad person, right? Because the property manager is the one that sees the tenants on a daily basis. They probably know his or her name, right? So
Right,
that's why I like to detach myself from it because my property manager can put me as the bad guy, and that's the key. Like you want to be known as the bad guy um, on the deal. So that's why I try to detach myself from it, you know, and even if let's say they were that adamant that they would talk to me, I wouldn't admit that I'm the owner. I would just say, hey, I am the accountant for the owner, right? Because once again, like I'm just some boring accountant. I just look at the numbers. And I just would say, well, I'm putting in $200,000 in a renovation, and we're renovating. We want to look nice, and it's just going to cost more. But people know what the market rent is. If like in my 26 unit apartment complex, people know the market rent is $700, and they've been getting $450. They know it's cheap, right? So they know when I come in, even if I raise it from 450 to let's just call it $600, they're still saving $100 a month on the property. So that's just kind of the nature of the business, and people are going to be unhappy regardless of what you do. You can give them the notice 90 days in advance, do all the renovations. You can fix their unit as well. They'll still be angry when you raise the rent on that. That's just how it is, right? So that's what kind of humbled me a little bit. I renovate my 20 unit Like literally, I went from I think 15 occupied to like 7 in like 2 months, and to this day, I think I'm up to about 13 out of 20. Right, I gotta get to 18 out of 20. So I have 5 more to go, and my hard money loan's due in like 3 months. So
That's tough.
yeah, it's coming up, right? I can extend for another 3 months, but like I have, I think 3 units ready to go. If I rent out 2 more, I'll be at like 15, which is 75%. And then at that point, once I hit 75%, I'm gonna start engaging lenders because it's gonna take a while for me to start engaging lenders, and I can prove that hey, I rented out 8 units in like whatever 3 months, so I can continue to do it. So, you know, but anyways, that's just some context for the audience. But I guess like, what's your current? How many units have you renovated so far for your 35?
Um, we actually, that's a good question. Actually, there's two apartments, right? We have so many problems in the other building,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of needs to be repaired, and there's a lot more vacancies than the 26 units. And so we're focusing so much with the 26 units because it's easier to maintain. And now we're rethinking it. What if we actually just kind of wholesale it, kind of put lipstick on that apartment building and just sell it to an investor? And so we're open to that idea. We're kind of thinking and then talking to, it's funny because our property manager is, I think I told you this, that he's also a broker. And
Yes.
so we're kind of open with the idea. He's talking to an investor and kind of run the numbers. And we're still kind of thinking it kind of gives us more, because it's a lot of problem with the other building. It's just the tenant, we're trying to get rid of the bad tenant.
Mhm.
That's why there's a lot of vacancies right now, just because the reputation years with that apartment. And so it's really hard to occupy that apartment building. So um, to answer your question, I don't have the numbers yet because it's still in the works. I would say a lot in that building, the 9 unit. I would say 7 on that building, 7 or maybe a little less. And then on the 26 units, there's 3 vacancies. So we're still working. It's still a lot, honestly, but we're trying. Once we get rid of that one building, we're thinking, what's the pros and cons of that? Um,
Is your
yeah.
hard money loan for both properties?
Yeah, so that's another, that's it's kind of like a package. I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to talk to our hard money loan. How does that work too?
Yeah, that's because it seems like your 26 unit, you're at 88% occupancy. I mean, honestly, you can probably like cash out or refinance out of that right now.
Right,
The
right.
problem is you're conjoined with that 9 unit, right? So it
Mm-hmm,
almost makes sense to, if you could like just get rid of that 9 unit,
mm-hmm,
sell that, basically get a portion, pay down your hard money loan, and then at that point you can cash out refi that. But yeah, that's the hard part, and that's what's very common too. Because like my 20 unit, it has a bad reputation, unfortunately, because a lot of homeless people are lingering around there.
okay.
People weren't paying, or there's bed bugs. There's homeless people lingering there. Female homeless people would go in there and stay the night.
Mm. Oh wow. Okay.
So, I'm going through. I basically had to get rid of most of my tenant base and then refill them all with new tenants.
Mm-hmm,
And then once you get that new tenant base in, your reputation quickly changes, right? Like they know that like, oh, it's a nice house now, or a nice apartment complex with good families that live there, good people that live there who aren't seedy. So okay, so it seems like your issue is at 9 unit, um out of the 35. That makes sense. So I think that they package them together because one was good and one was not as good.
Right.
That's why
And
they.
thankfully the bigger units is not much of a problem, you
Yeah.
know, and we renovate mostly on that 26 units. But you know, our mistake was we renovated some of the units in the on the 9 units. We should have just kind of focused on the 26 units, but oh well, I mean, we're thinking maybe just put a lipstick on it, kind of make it nicer, and then kind of have um investor take a look at it and negotiate.
I mean, what's the occupancy of that 9 unit right now?
Um, it's I would say two,
Like
two
two out
to
of nine?
three, 2 to 3 out of 9.
Oh wow. What did it come like that, or did all those people leave or get evicted?
No, they my property manager got rid of the bad tenants.
Yeah.
And he was thinking to kind of make it occupy with some good tenants, but now we were kind of rethinking what if we just sell it? You know, there's still a lot of fixing to do. I remember he was telling us that um, when he was showing it to one of their tenants, I think there's like water flowing somewhere. There's plumbing issues and stuff, and I know there's going to be a lot of renovation we needed to do overall, and so we're thinking maybe we can just sell it
Yeah.
as is and maybe fix little things here and there and not pay out of pocket so much, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Because it's probably gonna cost you, I mean, like 10,000 per unit minimum, right?
Oh
All the
yeah.
maintenance,
Yeah,
that's
we already
okay.
spent tons of money and I just can't wait to refinance because we actually had to stop renovating because we spent a lot of money already. And so since we already spent a lot of money and we kind of wanted to rethink some of the units if what we can't just renovate the whole thing, the whole shebang. We can just prior what is it livable? Can we just paint it? We can just very little things here and there, cosmetic stuff.
I
And
think if I were you guys, I would maybe rent if one unit is like kind of nicer, like the renovated one, just rent that out, and you basically prove the model to the next investor that's buying it, right? Like let's just say
right.
I spent $10,000 to fix it as one unit, and I'm getting whatever $500 in rent. So once you
Mhm.
prove that model out, it's easy to sell to like another investor, right? That's what I'm
Right.
kind of doing my mobile home park,
Hmm.
uh, where
Okay.
I basically prove the model that hey, I brought in this brand new mobile home, right? That I bought for $45,000, 100% financed through this lender. Monthly payments $400 a month, and I rented it out for $700. I did it twice,
Hmm. Okay.
right? So the next when I pitched this deal to another investor, I said, "Well, hey, like I have 100 lots empty. You can repeat my process."
Right.
Right? So that's how you make it appetizing for the next investor, right? So if you get
Hmm.
one, like take your best one, like say, hey, you know what? We had to evict these bad tenants. They weren't paying. They're breaking whatever all the lease agreements we needed to change the culture of the apartment. So we evicted them all. I renovated this one unit. This is how much it costs. This is my rents. And at that point you can try to pitch it to other investors. But like keep in mind, unless you sell it through a hard money loan, it's going to take what is that, 60 days to close, right? Or even with a hard money loan, it might take
Right.
60 days. So, it's kind of clock's kind of ticking against
Right.
you.
Right.
Or if, another strategy that you can do, and I have lenders that will do it, like you can just, sometimes the one property can kind of carry the team, the other bad property. But if you also prove that model in that unit, you can sell it to a lender too. Say, hey, look I have my 26 unit. It's doing great, right? It's
Hmm.
88% occupied. This one, you had to explain your story, right? Like, hey, it was fully occupied. They were not good tenants. They weren't paying. They stopped paying when we took over. We evicted them. I renovated one. This is how much rent I got. And I just want to get out my hard money loan. So if you do this for me, whatever money I pull back out let's say you made money on it or you didn't. Let's say you got back to your initial down payment. I'll say, well, I'll use that money to renovate the rest of the units and rent it out. And sometimes the lender might say yes, but they might hold that money in a reserve account, so they force you to do it. So that's another option too. Like, you just basically have to prove a concept, whether that's to an end buyer or to the lender, because the
Got it.
lender has to sell the story to the underwriter.
Hmm.
Just do that to multiple lenders,
Oh, I
right?
didn't know you can do that. Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought it has to be 80, I mean 90%,
Well,
close to 90%.
sorry, I didn't give context. Like, that's the ideal situation. Like, if you hit 90%, I can confidently say that you'll get a really good refinance,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if push comes to shove, and I'm getting close to that point too, like, whatever, let's just say I'm at 75 collectively. I just said, well, hey, look what I've done on the property, right? I've got rid of all these tenants, I renovated it, I got this much rent. I just need to get out of my hard money loan. So can you do a refinance? And then I promise that I'll continue to do the rest. And they might just hold your money with that. It just depends on the lender. Or some lenders might give you the money to renovate the rest, right? Some lenders might. They might be like, oh, we'll actually give you $100,000 to renovate the rest of those units. And then you can do another cash out refinance, right? So
But my monthly will be high though, right?
correct. That's the trade-off though, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
more leveraged. That's what it is, right? But the key is, if you're leveraged and then the value goes up. So you might be doing 2 phases cash out refi. So phase 1 might be, okay, I got the property to 75%, cash out refi on my hard money loan into a loan that's, I call it a bridge loan, but you have some renovation funds. And then after you finish that one, you cash out refinance again to your permanent long-term financing, right?
So do you think I should talk to the lenders first, see if they will approve us with that concept, or should we just get rid of the other one?
I think it's worth talking to a lender. Just explain your situation. Like, hey, I
Okay.
got like this, you know, um, basically a 26 unit and a 9 unit. The 26 unit is pretty good. They'll probably like that, but you can package it together with that 9 unit. Just explained if you prove the concept. I'm hoping. Did you renovate one and rented one out? Like renovated?
Yes.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
proved it, right? So how much did you spend that unit? Do you know?
Um, about 10,000, about
Yeah.
that range.
And then how much rent did you get? I mean, what was the rent before and what was the rent after the renovation?
I'm trying to remember. So it was 300 something before, and now it's close to 500.
Yeah. So you prove that model, right? So you might be able to talk to some other lenders, but I think yeah, you can just start talking to them now and see what their thoughts are, and it'll help you pivot your strategy, right?
Okay.
If they just say, hey, like this is not going to work, well, you have to talk to 10 different lenders to find
Right.
one that want to work with you, right? So just because one lender says no doesn't mean it's done.
Right.
But at
Right.
least
You're
gives you an
right.
idea. If you talk to like 20 lenders and they're like, yeah, we're not going to do this, at that point, it's probably going to guide you like, oh, shoot, I probably got to get rid of this 9 unit. And then lenders will jump over the 26 unit.
Hmm.
So,
Good
so yeah,
point.
so there's many exit strategies, right? And yeah.
Kind
So,
of recalculate everything. Just want to make sure our monthly is a lot lower right now than, because I know what's killing us is a hard money loan. Um, the APR is pretty high, so that's
what's
why.
12%?
12%.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my hard
And
money.
interest only.
Yeah, mine's 9% interest only. The one I got. But yours is a higher amount too, because
Right.
yours is probably double, so it starts to sting a little bit. Yeah, it's worth asking. I mean, you can use I can connect you with my hard money lender.
Yeah.
Your minimum is half a million, which I think yours will hit easily.
Oh, yes, yes.
And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think it's an option because like that's what I'm gonna do. Like, even for me, like like we make a plan, right? We buy a property, we have a plan, But the moment you take over the property, you get punched in the face like 5 times, and then you're
Oh
suddenly your
my
plan
God, yes.
changes. Yeah, your plan changes, right? When you get punched in the face 5 times.
And sometimes it stresses me out. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And we talk this thing over and over each day, you know. I mean, we have no one to talk to. I'm glad we just, you know, some people are into it. We don't really know, we don't have the same, I mean, just you, I mean, some of our friends, they're not going through the same experiences as we don't know to really go for, you know. I don't know what advice to go for. We just listen to different podcasts, and we don't know what's the right way, wrong way, right strategy, because I know each scenario is different.
Yeah, and well, that's what's nice about like being around people doing apartments, right? Like obviously, I'm doing what you're doing and going through the weeds, and but the difference is I'm detached from your situation, and you're detached
Mm-hmm.
from my situation, right? Like
Right.
I agree. Like with my mobile home park, I'm very emotional about it because I spent $600,000 on that deal, right?
Yeah.
And then it finally just took someone saying, Steven, I think you just gotta start to sell it, get your money back, and then focus on your 2 apartment complexes, right? But then, like when you're in the weeds, you don't see that because you feel like you're drowning, and it's stressful to write these large checks, right? I'm sure whatever reserve you had allocated, you're probably dipping in it already, if
Oh
not
my God, yes.
not
That's
towards
what
the
stresses us out a lot
yeah.
because we had a lot before and we're like rethinking this way. We had to stop renovating because we're thinking about our reserves. Like, is it really worth dipping into our savings, our reserves, and all our money that we're trying to just in case, you know?
It,
And it's hard.
that's one thing that they don't teach you in the courses, right? Is
Hmm.
like I never experienced it too. Like even though you have money allocated, like I had $200,000 allocated for all 3 of my 90 units. I blew through that.
Hmm.
I blew through that $200,000 reserve. So it's really a slow process. Like I think if you think in like 3-year segments, it's terrible, but 10 years from now, it might be the best thing you ever done,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard. And even for me, I'm just like, well, would I rather have 90 units unstabilized that's stressing me out, or would I rather have like 50 units that are like stable and making me cash flow, not stressing me out?
Yeah. 50 is still a lot though.
Yeah, yeah. And then, like 50 is nothing to sneeze at, like at the end of the day, right? So, that's why I kind of took with my mobile home park, said, hey, you know what? If I just can sell this after a year, make some money or break even, whatever, I learned a lot. And I know what to do. And like, what's the rush, right? Like, if we're investing for 30 years, 40 years, the rest of our life, whatever, it takes me 5 years to get 50 units and the next 5 years to get to 100. That's only 10 years, right? The next 10 years, you might go even faster if you want to, or you can stop. So I think, yeah, I think when's your hard money loan due? In August?
Yes,
Do you have the
August.
option to extend it? Or is it just,
I believe so, but I don't want it to extend it. I'm trying to get to actually do it, get out of it as soon as possible. Less than 1 year. Um, actually, what you said about the lender, we should actually start doing it tomorrow. We have homework to do. We gotta really move fast and think about our options because I feel like time is money. You know, we
yes.
gotta really figure out everything soon before it's too late.
No, I love you said that because a lot of what's annoying is that as the owner, every day that's delayed, you're losing money, like literally, right? And if people don't have that sense of urgency, I'm like, every day that this person lags, it can cost you $300 a day.
Right.
You have a 5-day delay, that's $1,500. Another 5-day delay, no, that's $3,000 now, right? So people don't have that sense of urgency. So you as the owner need to. But it seems like your property's at what's the occupancy right now? You're like around 70 if you include both. What is it?
Um,
2 plus like 23, so 25 out of 35, so 70%.
yeah, just about.
And then
75, about
what's
75%.
what's the gross monthly?
The gross monthly. Um, Look at my husband. 11,
11,000.
11,000.
11,000. Okay. And then what's your current loan? What's your monthly for your loan?
How much is the loan? About five, five
About
thousand.
five. So right out the gate, half your gross income goes to the loan, and then I know for a fact your expenses are going to be a lot more than that.
Oh yes.
Okay, okay, got it. Yeah, I think you should just start engaging other lenders because you could potentially just replace this hard money loan with another hard money loan at a better
That's what I
interest
was
rate, and
thinking.
it
Is that
resets.
possible?
Yeah, it is. It is
And
possible
okay,
as long as they see what you've done. Um, yeah, I think the lender I'm thinking of, they do portfolio loans. So you can do both properties together. Minimum is half a mil, and they might be able to give you renovation, some
hmm,
renovation money, depending. Because I think because the fact that you get 11,000 is not bad. Um, but yeah, yeah, I think you should start reaching out to multiple lenders, and you can. I'll email you.
thank
Um,
you.
my
Yes.
my
Is
lender.
that the same lender that you have sent me or a different one? Or you can send me a different lender. I can just started talking to them.
I might have actually. I might have sent. I might have linked it to you actually. Now that you think
Okay.
that one, but I think you went with this lender because it was a faster close or something.
Okay.
But I would go with them to see if they have an appetite for that deal.
Okay.
Um, just because like if you can reset your clock and lower your interest rate, I think that puts you less under stress.
Right.
And then I already said out the gate like what I thought was a lot of reserves was quickly blown away even for myself. So that's why now I'm like, if I sold my mobile home park, I'm not even gonna buy or look at real estate until literally both my 450 units are done. Like I've
Hmm.
cashed out refinance them because like there's so many unexpected things that happen, and I don't want to deal with that stress of like dipping into reserves because I'm hitting the point too where like I'm dipping in like lines of credits,
Hmm.
and it's not fun, right? When you're at that point.
Right.
I went from like feeling very rich to like very poor in a year. My net worth is like very high. Like it's most people be like, why are you stressed? Why you feel poor of that net worth of like, around 5 million. But I feel like I'm borderline poverty because of all the money I spend and how much I'm bleeding every month. Right. So it's not the greatest psychologically. Um,
Yeah, and it's weird because our Ohio multifamily is doing so great. I mean, even if our property in Las Vegas is doing great, it's just this one. That's why I'm not even entertaining a lot of investments right now because I just want to focus with this one. Once we figure it out, once everything is stabilized, like I told you, I don't want to be putting ourselves too much in our plate because we just want to make sure that we're successful in this one. I feel like we're still kind of figuring out what are we going to do. Are we going to sell the other apartment building? Are we just going to refinance overall? We're trying still figuring out our strategy. And now, um, actually, we're going to do it as soon as possible. Once we talk to the lenders, multiple lenders, and figure it out, then we'll definitely let you know.
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's you have to be very flexible with the exit strategy. So that's why I always emphasize in my course, and like you have to buy right.
Hmm.
Because if you
Hmm.
buy right, you'll make money anyway,
Exactly.
right? Like I bought my mobile home park right, so I know if I sell it, I'll still make some money. Maybe not as much money as I thought, but because I bought it right, I know I'll make at least my money back, and that's downside mitigation, right? So worst case is I don't lose much money, and that's the goal, right? You don't want to
Hmm.
lose money when you're buying real estate, and like it's hard to compare because like with single family homes, like okay, like whatever, it's just vacant, you lose money, and then you rent it out. It's faster to rent out, and maybe you'll make like whatever, $300 a month, right? But with apartments, what I'm learning, the apartments that we're doing, right, the ones that I teach people to get, the one that you have, the one that I have, it's value add. and it's a completely different animal, right? Like literally, when you come in, you're going to renovate a bunch of units. That's going to cost money. And then the one thing that I didn't anticipate too, and no one really told me, is you're changing your whole tenant base as well. So what does that mean when you change your whole tenant base? That means you're gonna have a lot of vacancy while you're renovating it. So you're just eating, like, bleeding money for like 3 years. But if you renovate everything and you have a great tenant base, it's gonna be an easy asset, the most easiest asset you ever have, right? Like, can you
Right.
imagine me, 26 units all renovated, and I'm getting $700 a month each unit, and then every year I just raise the rent by like $25,
Mm.
right? It's easy, right? Like, I mean, $25 times 26 units, that's $650 extra, and that's profit.
Right. Right.
So that's why I learned, like, apartments, you need, your horizon should be like 3 years before you start seeing any money from that. With single family homes, I mean, tops like a year if you get to renovate it completely and you just rent it out, right? But with multifamily, you can make a lot more money. So, I can triple my value of my apartment complex from 500,000 to 1.5 million, but it might take me 3 years to do it, you know? So, but once you've done it, you got a new tenant base, right? Like my tenants, they paid via check too, but I have new tenants now, and all my new tenants pay via pay lease,
Mm.
auto pay to my bank account the first of every month, right? So the cost of getting those better tenants is bleeding money and renovating things, right? So that's just kind of the cost of doing business. And I wasn't aware of it psychologically. I mean, I knew of it conceptually, but it didn't slap me till I did it. And I just said, oh my God, like whatever time frame I thought, I needed double the time or maybe triple the time. So it was humbling for even me to do that. And you're learning as well, right? So like I said, even if you could, whatever, let's just say they value the property you bought for 750, let's say they value at 850, you might be able to get back some of your money out and then put that money back into the deal to renovate it.
Yep.
And then
That's the plan.
right, and then you renovate all that, and then maybe after another year you're done. You cash out, refinance into long-term debt,
Mm.
right? So and then at that point it should be more stable and more stabilized. So you just have to have that long-term outlook and go in and just see what your options are at the time. But obviously, if you hit the point where you kind of hit the point where because I know you have a family to worry about, so it's a little more pressure for you and Jay. But if you hit the point where like it's so stressful you can't sleep at night, just remember it takes about 3 months to sell something, right? Or another option is you could sell your 9-unit creative finance as
Mm.
well. That's
Right.
fast too,
Sure.
right? The only issue is you have a hard money loan on it right now, which makes it difficult. But you can say, hey, like if your payment on that 20-unit, 9-unit, let's say $1,500 a month, I'll say, hey, I'll sell this to you for this much, and you pay me $2,000 or $2,000 a month, so you'll net $500 a month. That's another option as well. Um, if you can't find any seller, I mean, obviously the best is just to get rid of it completely. That's your path you want to do. But another option is, you can do creative financing as well to exit it,
Right.
you know,
Mm.
or you could, bring in a partner or just be like, hey, I need this much money to renovate it. Whatever. After we catch a refi, we split the equity this much or this much. You know, there's like infinite ways you can do it. It's just getting a little bit creative with it and going down your options, right? So, um, just remember, like, no doesn't mean no. It just means consider another option.
Mm-hmm.
And all these options I just gave you, not many people think about it, right? Not many people think about it. So for me, I'm always on the buy side, but if you think about it, if I'm thinking on the buy side, the same applies on the sell side. I want to sell it, right? So, like for me, if I'm going to sell my mobile home park, I'm a seller carry second a little bit as well, right? So my profits might be trapped in the deal, but that's okay. I'll get paid interest on my money I left in the deal in second lien position. In like 3 years, I get the money back. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
because I know creative financing, I can use it to sell my asset even faster to make it appealing for the end buyer. Right.
Right.
So you can maybe sell your 9 unit for whatever 5% down, and they pay you monthly interest that's more than what you're paying on it. That could be an option too. Right. So there's so many options out there. You just have to find the right person to do it, right? So yeah, it's another option as well. But if the key is, if you want to, what's smart about you is you're what, 5 months out.
Right.
So I mean, you still have a lot of time. That's better than most people. But yeah, like I said, it does take like three 3 months to sell it. But you can like start posting it on like forums and like stuff like that too. Like, don't rely just on the broker, right? Like you can post it on
Mm-hmm.
like forums. That's what I did when trying to sell my mobile park. I would list it on forums as well, just to get more marketing, more exposure to it. And might be a great 9 unit apartment complex that's pretty cheap. Might be a great start for some people. To basically sell that, and then you can sell your system as well because you have a property manager there already. So it's almost like selling something turnkey, kind of.
Right.
The downside is,
Exactly.
right, like you sell them a system, right? Like I have a property manager, I have contractors there already. This is how much it's going to cost to continue what I've done, and they just need to have the money to do it and have the expectations that it's going to take a while, but once we fix these up and rent them out, we're good. So it's just pitching that story to the next person if you want to sell it. For that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. You make me think about different options.
Yeah, just open your mind to other options, because there's a lot out there, um, you know, for that win-win situation. So like you said, as long as you know the ARV, so like you bought for 750, what's the ARV going to be? Like, what was your original ARV estimate? Like once you were done with everything.
Let me see. ARV. What's the ARV? Let me ask. ARV for each of that. ARV for that is about, I was like close to, yeah, ARV.
It's
I
like,
would say close to a mil.
okay, so basically
We were
your goal
close
was
to a
kind of
mil.
like do a burr where you just pull out your down payment back out and your renovation costs, or maybe leave a little bit money in the deal.
Actually, that was our original plan to do a burr
Yeah.
overall.
Well, like let's just say you do burr and you have to leave money in the deal. Just know that's not bad, right? Because even if you have less money in the deal, you're just more leveraged. So it's not a bad thing, right? Like people think that burr, you pull your money out, that's ideal. But even if you leave 10% in the deal, it's not bad at the end of the day, right? Like, you know, I'm trying to tell myself that because, in case I had to leave money in the deal. Um, but okay, great. Yeah, I think another piece that I would definitely recommend for you guys is really, and I fell into this trap. And my excuse is that I was renovating like 40 units in 1 year. But
It's a lot.
really keep track of like your renovation, like how much per unit and how much you're spending. Because I'm not sure how your contractor is being paid, whether it's you, are you paying them directly, or are they using a credit card, or how's it work? Are you giving them like cash and then they'll go buy it?
No, so for the contractor, we have a business line of credit. And so they call us first, then they tell us the amount, then we tell them our the business line of credit. So we get points, our business account
Okay,
through
got
it.
it. So basically everything is handled through that, but like, because like something that people do is called a contractor special, where they'll go return things, they'll take the cash themselves, right?
What
Like
is?
I guarantee you it's probably happening to me. But
Oh, they're returning the supplies.
yeah, let's just say I use your line of credit to go buy something at Home Depot, right? And then I don't use it all, and I go they can go return it at Home Depot and say, I want it back in cash.
Oh wow. Hopefully that wouldn't happen.
Right. But like I said, it's hard to know. Like, and like I said, it's probably happening to me. I'll be honest. I'm probably guilty of it as well. But that's how contractors cheat you. Right. And then another thing too is like a lot of times your expense can get way out of hand. Like my mobile home park, I completely underestimate how much the expense would be. And it's partly, I'd say it's my fault because I didn't do enough due diligence. But also, I kind of put a little blame on my property manager. Like they've been doing the business for like 30 years. They should have properly primed me a little better. But at the end of the day, they sold me the deal, right? So they're incentivized to make money and get their commission, you know?
Mm.
So like what's crazy to me is the person that sold me my mobile home park, they're gonna make as much money as I made on the deal. And they put zero money in the deal and no risk at all. They just made money on the buy and the sell. So I have to pay them on the buy and the sell, right? So I'm like, I'd rather be in your situation where I don't have to put any of my own money in the deal, don't risk anything, and they made as much money as me, right?
Mm.
But whatever, if I make any money, I'm happy. Break even, I'm happy. And I got a real life MBA in mobile home parks, right? And if you ask me, I probably wouldn't do my mobile home park deal again. I would only do a mobile home park deal in California that I can drive to on a quarterly basis. That's the attention that it needs, right?
Mm.
Apartments, I don't need as much attention on them. Or why even do mobile home parks when apartments are easier for me, right? So, um, so yeah, I would really advise like just really be cognizant of your expenses for your renovation, um, how much you're spending per unit, and um, just remember to trust but verify. Like if they're renovating something, um, ask like, oh, like I always just ask like, oh, what's more cost effective? Like, do we need to do this? Do we need to do this? I have a whole module on renovations um, in the course, but just be really cognizant of that because that's like for me, I quickly saw it get out of hand. Like for me, and all of a sudden I'm like dipping into my reserves, like beyond what I'm comfortable with. Um, yeah. So, any other questions on your 35 unit?
Um, I think that's all, but I'll keep in touch with you. Definitely. With the process, we'll definitely reach out to lenders.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, don't lose hope yet. I mean, you're only halfway. Um,
I feel like we're just starting, and
yeah, like even me, I thought I'd be done by now. I'll be honest. If you asked me like a year and a half ago, I thought I'd be done by now. I mean, I can't believe it was like May already. I thought I'd be done by now and sitting on some cash flow and saying, "Hey, I don't need my job anymore." If you asked me like a year and a half ago, but a year and a half later, I'm like, I probably need another year and a half. But hard money
mm,
loans, you don't have that option. So it's kind of making me second guess, like, do I even want to do hard money loans anymore? Because I know a year is not enough time. It's not enough time. I'd rather have my other loan where it's 10 years where I can take my time. I'm not stressed, right? My 26 unit, I have a 10-year loan on that thing at 4.3% interest. Like,
mm,
I'm not stressed at all, right? I can take 5 years and cash out refinance it. Or if you do creative financing on the deal, right? Like you can negotiate your terms and not be stressed. Versus a hard money loan, we're up against the gun. Like we all know, like in your mind, you're thinking August, I'm thinking May. So, and then when you're stressed, you don't make a smart decisions because we can't because we're under the gun, right? Like the gun's to our head. We're in fight or flight mode. We're not making the best decisions for the property. Like for me, what I'm paying more money for speed. I'll be honest. Like my renovation will be like, oh, this guy is faster but more expensive. I'm paying for it because I know I need speed because my hard money loan is due, right? So there's always kind of like give and take on that portion. But if you can get over this like hurdle, I mean, the 2016 would do very well for you, right? I mean, you're talking about $13,000, gross when it's stabilized. Half goes to expense. That's what 6,500. and then whatever your loan is, and the rest is your net profit. So then after that, your rent slowly raises and raises and raises. But like I said, just be open to multiple exit strategies, and the key is buying right and proving. So this is the part that I learned was once you prove the concept, it's easy to sell it. So I proved the concept on mobile home park. I can sell it. My both my apartments, I proved the concept already. I could sell it and probably make money. But I don't want to sell it. I'm stubborn for at least my apartments. Mobile home park up, if I got the right price, I'll sell it. Whatever. But who knows? Maybe someone will give you the right price for all 35 of your units. And maybe that's enough to be like, okay, whatever. I'll walk away from the deal, get money back, and I learned. Right. So, like for me, I was very stubborn. I always say I'm always buy and hold. I don't want to sell, but I've kind of pivoted a little bit after owning it. I'm like, oh God, I get why people sell now. Because sometimes your situation may not pan out what you want it to be, and you don't want to deal with it anymore, so you sell it. So, yeah, just be open to other options, and like I said, there might be a lender that might be okay with 70% occupancy where it is right now. So, but yeah, keep me posted on that deal, and yeah, keep on hopping on the sessions because I think, yeah, I'll give you another set of eyes to see what the property is, and that was the whole point of my community. I want to give like a set of eyes on other people's apartment complexes, because I'm really in the weeds as well. Like I'm literally like my loan is due 3 months before yours. So, and I'm at 65% right now. So,
Oh,
so I'm up against the wall as well. But I've proven concepts, and renting out 6 units in like 3 months is impressive. At 500, I might get to 7. So once you prove that, that's how you move forward. So okay, great. Thanks for sharing your experience, Charmaine. I think
well, thank you for your suggestion.
yeah,
Definitely keep you in the loop. Appreciate
yeah.
it.
I will actually just after this, I'll just connect you with my lender after this call.
Okay,
And then he can
appreciate that.
help you. So you can at least know, because like for me, it's like once you get enough data points, you know how to pivot your strategy. So just by talking to multiple lenders, you get more data points,
Okay.
right? So, but yeah, this lender, they're nice because they do hard money loan, but then they also can give you long-term non-recourse debt on your 35 units.
Okay.
So you might pay a higher interest rate, but it's non-recourse. You don't personally guarantee it. And that's what we want. Right? I don't want to personally guarantee things, and I don't mind paying a higher interest rate for that. So hopefully they can help you, and because they can kind of tell you like, oh, like this is what we want to see before we give you long-term financing. So it's kind of nice, right? Like if you have the same lender in the deal, they'll tell you like do this, this, and this. And once you're here, we'll cash out refinancing. So it gives you like a tangible goal that you'll get to cash out refi. To that. I guess it's a little bit over time, but I wanted to open it up. Any other questions from anyone else? Got time for one more question?
Hey, Stephen. I'm actually new to your sessions here. Charmaine had mentioned you to me and my sister. I'm thinking about joining forces with my sister and my brother-in-law to look for real estate investments. And I don't have any questions for you since my sister is more well versed in researching what is needed. But just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Pooh.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
No,
great. No,
thanks for
thanks
hopping
for
on,
hopping
and
on. And
you'll learn a
you'll
lot
learn a
from
lot from
Charmaine
Charmaine,
and Jay. I
Jay.
mean,
I mean,
they definitely have the
they
right
definitely have the right
mindset to
mindset
be
to be
successful.
successful.
I mean, they
I mean,
take
they take
action
action
without much
without much
knowledge,
knowledge,
but
but
they're willing to
they're
pivot.
willing to pivot.
So,
So
and that's what you need,
that's what
right?
you need, right?
Success isn't
Success isn't
linear;
linear.
it's
It's
very
very
up and down.
up and down. Yeah, we're based out in California, so from what Charmaine's telling us, that's probably best we look somewhere that's probably in the Midwest or Mideastern areas. So I wanted to know if there's like a mailing list for your future webinars or meetings. We can
Yeah,
get those.
yeah. Just send me your email, and then I send out weekly emails to the
Okay,
group, and I can send you an invite
all right,
to the
cool.
sessions.
Yeah, sorry I hopped on pretty late, but say
Cool,
hi.
cool.
Get introduced.
All right. If no one else, thanks for hopping on, and I hope to see you guys next week.
All right, cool.
All right. Thank you, Steven. Bye, Sumi.
Bye.
Okay, bye.